Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Crime and Entertainment. We have here today a very special guest diving back into the mob world here. We have Frank Dimatteo. Frank, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. Yeah, thank you. I'm good.
All right. Well, I'm glad you could make it on the show. You've got a very interesting story because I've done a little research on you since we put this interview in place, and you've actually worked up under a lot of different families or worked with a lot of different families. You spent a little time with the decavs. You worked on the Chin for a little while, and you started out, with the Gallo Crew. So you've got a lot of insight that a lot of other guys won't have because most of the guys we've talked to were kind of loyal and set to one family and they didn't change. And I want to get into how that came around to where you were able to kind of just go where you wanted. But first, let's start with, where you grew up. That's where I like to start with everybody. You grew up in Red Hook, Brooklyn. Is that right?
That's right. I was born in Red Hook, Brooklyn in the 50s. Yeah, I come from Court Street. I lived there for many, many, many years. I was brought up down there. Yeah, it was all the homegrown, a lot of homegrown gangsters came out of Red Hook.
Right.
Our main clubs was in Red Hook on President Street. So I spent most of my time down there.
Now, when you were coming up, I know later on we'll get into how you got kind of into the life, but did you know that your family and father was involved in the mob? Or, because a lot of times as a kid, you don't really know. As a kid, people are just, they say they're uncles or whatever, you don't really question it. But at what age did you start kind of realizing that, your family and the guys that would come around were just a little different?
I would say about 10. I really started realizing because people started whispering. So, a little scuttlebutt was going on. But prior to that, these guys were my uncles. My father, came up early. He's with these guys. These guys came over the house. They didn't talk too much business that you could hear them.
Right.
And if it was something that we didn't need to hear, we would be told to leave the room anyway. Right. So that's about 10 years old. And then I really figured out, and then it just blossomed from there on.
Now I've heard you talk about at 6 years old, you actually witnessed a murder, Joey Maggs.
Yeah. We were coming me and my mother was coming out of an apartment building. A friend lived there on 4th Avenue on Union, and we're in the corner, and my mother noticed that a few guys she knew was coming out of a car, and one of them was Joe Maggs, went over to one of the skippers that were there, and an argument happened, and this Joe Maggs wound up getting shot.
Wow.
So, like I said, it was like a cowboy and Indian thing. It wasn't too gory. It was across the street. It was bang bang, fell on the floor. My mother wished me away. So I wasn't too taken back by it. I was young. You know what I mean?
Right.
Startled at first, from the bang bang, but like I said, it wasn't too bad. Later on, I found out it was, when everybody started coming around, I found out who it was and what really happened. And then I didn't know he was dead on the floor that second. Or how would I know? Bang bang's on the floor. It could have fell. It could have been hurt. I didn't know, that bad until later on that evening. And then, so really didn't. I mean, really didn't traumas as at all. I had no trauma out of it.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Now your father was in the mob as well, correct?
Yeah, my father was deep in the mob. Yeah,
deep in the mob. Now was he a maid guy?
No, he wouldn't take a maid. He wouldn't take the button. He got offered 3 times buttons. He got offered by Genovese family. He got offered by the Colombos, and he got offered by in Jersey with Sammy the Plumber. And he wouldn't take it because his philosophy was that if you were freelance like he was, you're not obligated, and you can't be told what to do. And he was a stickler on that. He stood with Larry Gallo from 1961 till he died in 68 as his private bodyguard. And then he went over to Albert as his bodyguard until 76. So He stood there, yeah, like 15, 16 years with the Gallos. He originally came up with Tony Benda from the Genovese family. He was bouncing.
Mhm.
And Joey and Larry came up to see Tony Benda. I think it was at the Wagon Wheel or something like that, because Tony Benda was helping Joey with a breakaway against Joe Pafaci.
Right.
And Ricky was there bouncing, and he wound up getting into a fight with a black guy that was there that said something to a girl out of the way. In those days, early, it wasn't too common. So Ricky wound up knocking this guy out, 2 punches, and the guy wound up being a middleweight champion, Emil Griffith. So when Larry and Joey saw that, they went over to Tony Benda and they said, "Well, we can use this guy in Brooklyn. Can we have him?" So Tony said, "Take him." And so Larry and Joey went over to Ricky and said, "You want to come to Brooklyn with us?" And they started talking. And Ricky said, "Fine." And that's why he wound up in Brooklyn with Larry and the Gallos. And that's how he wound up. And then he went through the first war with them, 62, 63, 62, 63, I think, maybe up early 64.
Mm-hmm.
And he just stood with, Larry. And he got really, really close, and he was well respected. My father was well respected. I mean, you can go to any family, any family, any crew, Ricky, that's it. People used to reach out to each other, and being that he was instrumental, we had a lot of connects, a lot of friends. So you would deal with a lot of different families because peacetime, you got to make money.
Mm-hmm.
I got bare bonds and I can't get rid of them. You got to go somewhere. So, it might be a banana guy that has a connection with, to dump the stuff. And that's how we all, get together. And that's how we all met each other. And you make friends. And you do make relationships with other crews, other families. And that's what Ricky did. Ricky had a lot of connections because my uncle was Joe Shapani, which is big union guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, people know that Joe Shapani was with Ricky, and they needed Joe Shapani, so somebody would reach out for Ricky, and that's how it goes. It's a circle, and then you make friends. And everybody always needs someone in this life, especially, with these guys, because everything's always coming up. There's a lot of maneuvers coming up. You get a lot of deals coming in that you can't handle yourself. So they wind up reaching out. That's how a game works. So Ricky wound up, really well respected. And wound up with Larry until he died, and then wound up with Albert until he died, until they broke up in 1976.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. When he was with Albert, was he up with him until he got taken out in the barbershop?
No, he wasn't with Albert at the stage. He was Albert Gallo.
Oh, okay. Okay, Gallo. All right. You had me confused there because I was thinking that was Gallo. Anastasia was long before Gallo, so that's why my timeline was getting a little screwed up there.
Yeah, no. Gallo's the one that took out of Albert Anastasia.
Right.
But no, with Albert Gallo, which is the third brother that was only alive. He was the last one alive. He stood with him until 76.
Now, Albert was kind of the de facto boss when you were coming up.
No, Larry was the boss.
Larry was the boss
until Larry died. And then Joey was the boss while he was in jail. But Bless overseed everything because he was the only one in the street.
Mm-hmm.
But Joey, after Larry died, Joey was the boss. And then when Joey came out, he took the reins again for the year he was out, and then he got killed. And then Albert was the only one left, so he took the reins back again. Mm-hmm. But pretty much, that's how it worked that way.
Now, as far as the Anastasia hit, and we'll touch on that for a minute. There's been a lot of different rumors of who it was and how it went down. Obviously, it was portrayed in the movie The Irishman, but about everybody that I talked to says a lot of that movie is probably the most fabricated and true stretch movie that Scorsese's ever done. As far as, facts. What do you think? 100%. Yeah. What do you think as far as that, and I'm speaking Albert, since there's two Alberts, I'll clarify and I'll do both names. Albert Anastasia, as far as that hit. Now they say that, Joe was the one that done that.
110%. Carmine Persico, Larry Gallo, Joe Gallo, and Joe Gelli was on that hit.
Right.
110%. Because if you're in this life, you don't go around bragging that you're the barbershop quartet and you take a hit for that boss like that and you're just a banana, just yelling saying that. So that's ridiculous. Even people thinking that these guys in this life can walk around and say that. and as a joke or as bragging. It doesn't happen that way. They would have been laughed at it out of town. Number two, Joe Bufacci didn't really care for Joey Gallo. And all three got straightened out right after the Albert hit. So, you put those two things together, and I sat with Larry for many, many years and Albert. And everybody that's been in this life around, that's been made guys bosses, under bosses, and they got the respect for that hit. So, I mean, anybody can say anything. There's another. I heard the other variation, but there's nothing there. It's nothing. If somebody just come up with something, nothing there. I mean, is anything possible? Yeah, but you just can't survive in this life and walk around and do stupid shit like that. It just doesn't happen.
Right. And I mean, his nickname was the Lord High Executioner, and I think they call him the Mad Hatter or something as well. I mean, he was a brutal dude, but there was also been, and I've heard you mention this, and I think I've heard other people mention in the past, that he was actually accused of selling buttons.
That's what they said. It's happened before my time. I mean, that's what they said. But let me tell you something about this life. When I do something, I mean, not me personally, but a guy in this life does something bad, what they do is they talk about you, that you did something bad. They always push the weight somewhere else. So if you're doing something bad, maybe it was Tony Bender, and Bender said, nah, Albert's doing it. He said, you don't know. That was the rumor. Number two, this guy was really, nutty. He was, he'll kill you for no reason. This guy, a lot of guys didn't like that. And number three, Vito Genovese want to make a move again. So, it is what it is. If Vito made the move, he was it was stronger. They took out Frank Costello already. Willie got killed in Jersey. Lucky was in Italy. He couldn't do a damn thing. I mean, he got him to his weakest point, and he took over. Vito was a bad guy that way, man. So, it came down. They put I think from the mistake, they put Carlo Gambino in charge of that.
Right.
He became the boss. This world, it's happened each boss before that, so it's nothing common.
Yeah.
The first rule was you don't kill the boss, and every boss got killed the list. So it's not a talk about rules and regulations and a murder, stuff like that, but it's all smoke and mirrors, because it's all not true. It's all not true.
Right. And for those of us that may not get what I was actually talking to, because we do a lot of interviews on the show, it's not just mob related, but when I made the mention of selling buttons, basically when you're made into the mob, that's what you call getting your button. And when you're selling them, obviously people are not maybe going through the proper channels or making their bones to actually earn them like they're supposed to. So in a sense, you're kind of beefing up your family without them doing things to earn that right. And I know that was kind of a hit on him. The Gallo, go ahead.
They've been doing that forever, but so that's another thing I want to throw in there. A lot of guys got straightened out because they were big money earners. Mm-hmm. It's a common practice, man.
Yeah. I can see that. I can see if you're a huge earner. I can see that.
It's been happening forever. So to hop on that thing about 57, in the early 50s with Albert, I think it was just something to hop on, and it's a good conversation. But it's been done thousands of times since then.
Right. Now, I'm sure most of our listeners have probably seen the movie, Goodfellas, and Ray Liotta's character, who he's portraying Henry Hill in there, even says there's a part in the movie, he's like, where Crazy Joe decided to start a war. The war that he started, were you close with Joe? How old were you at this time when that war was going on?
With Joey in 1970 and 71?
Yeah.
I was real close. I was driving Bobby Bongiovanni around and my father at that time. Yeah, I was real close in that one. Joey Gallo did not recognize Joe Colombo as a boss.
Right.
Simple as that. Why? Because that's Joey Gallo's mindset. Joey, when they made the peace in '63, Joey was in jail. He never had a voice on it. Joey Gallo was in jail. When he came out, he complained while he was in jail not to be kicking up to Joe Colombo because he didn't recognize him. Blast always kept the peace after 64, and Larry kept the peace because they didn't want no more bloodshed. So, but Joey said when he gets out, it's over. And when Joey got out, he told everybody, right where it's at. I mean, he called Joe Colombo to come down. He sent Rocky Maniglia and another guy. I forgot who the other guy is. I don't remember. And with an envelope with Joey laughed at the guy's face, told him, go get a gun. And that's what he told us. He told us, go get guns because we're going to hit the mattresses, because he told us, do not give them a dime. Do not go where they are. Do not, if you're doing anything with them all, just cut it out. Which that would be Joe Colombo's crew. Those guys do not deal with them. Do not forget that Joey Gallo is a crew in the Pafacci family, which turned into a Colombo family. Right. So they're only a crew. And Joey and those guys never treated them like they were a crew. They always were independent. That's why they were always a stickler in the side of Pafacci and then and Colombo. When between 64 and 71, when he got shot, he left the Gallos alone. They let them do what the hell they want because they were pain in the asses. They would shoot fast. They were tough guys. There were a lot of killers on both sides. So, and they didn't listen. So they let them run around, let them go earn, let them take this, let them take that, like that. It's like, leave me alone, but until Joey got out. And then Joey says, nah, you ain't the boss. And
now, well, one thing too, from Joey, like looking, he was a kind of and I know Frank Costello did it too. To a certain extent, he would kind of hobnob with celebrities and people on the upper echelon of New York. But Joey done that as well. And there's all sorts of rumors of, people that were around on Murders at Night. I think Jerry Orbach's name gets thrown around a lot. But before that happened, like, who would you probably say, because you're close to some of these guys, who would you say was the most violent?
Joey Gallo was a tough guy. He was no fear. He'll crack you with his hands or he'll shoot you. But we had a lot of guys, man, in that crew. A lot of guys. Bobby Dow was a killer. He had probably 10 under his belt. You had Sally Mangiamelli, killer, man. I mean, you got that whole crew era of people were all shooters. I mean, so who's tougher than the other? I don't know. They were all scary. I mean, they killed Joe Maggs fast because Joe Maggs he'll kill you. I mean, they killed Joe Jelly fast. You know why they killed Joe Jelly fast? Because he was a killer. So they take out your strength first. So that goes to show you who they take out first and who they fear.
Yeah.
So that's how this works. So there's a lot of, but Joey was a tough guy. He was old school, smiling your face and cracking them out. You know what I mean? And that's how he was. I happen to be very close with Joe. I admired him, because he was like the mentor for everybody. He was very charismatic. He was very warm with us. I mean, he saw us in the street, and don't forget, we were very young at the time. You make sure you have a dime in your pocket. Make sure, very respectful. I just, for that age, I was memorized by him. He was the man.
And there's long been rumors that, obviously Joe Colombo, he was doing the rally and a black guy comes up and shoots him.
Yeah.
There's been long rumors that Joey could have possibly facilitated that, because I know he was close with guys like Nicky Barnes and other ones. He became close to him while he was in prison. What do you have to say about that? Is there any truth to that?
No truth in that. That hit was put up by Cambino and the Colombo family. They had to get rid of him. He was making a lot of noise. Yeah, he was making a lot of noise. He was bringing a lot of heat down. Trust me. But they're smart, these guys. They know how to throw the heat off them. So what's the best thing? Crazy Joe's arguing with them. Get a black guy and go kill him. I mean, Joey was crazy. Joey not that crazy. He had tons of shooters. He don't need to do that.
Yeah.
But you kill two birds with one stone. You do that. You pin it on Joey, and you get and the interior, like the family got Carlo got the pain in the ass out of the way, and the rest of the crew that plotted against them, Carmine, Persico, and all those guys, they plotted against them, and they got rid of him and threw the heat onto Joey. They say that 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 it could have came from there. But they had to sit down after, and they got cleared. That's what people don't understand. There was a sit down after that. They got cleared of that. I mean, we could talk forever about it. That's why, Albert living, and that's why a lot of guys involved in that got a pass because they got cleared that didn't come from them. You know what I mean? In the early, I mean, right after, maybe about within a month, there was, it was going on. We hit the mattresses, and they cleared that up pretty fast. But it was still, no love lost. There was stuff going on. But they strained that out a long time ago. Everyone who's supposed to know and does know who killed Joe Colombo.
And Joey had a lot of, Joey had a lot of people that was loyal to him. And I think that's one thing I'm always curious about when I talk about some of these, more notable names and organized crime. It's that old, phrase from the movie A Bronx Tale. And it's, was he loved or feared? What do you think Joey was more, loved or feared?
No, I think Joey was loved. I really think that you, Joey, you want to be with Joey. It was, he had that charisma. To be with him, and in those days, you would get a lot of perks being around Joey. When they knew you around Joey, they used to, hey, be quiet, that guy's with Joey. It pulled a lot of weight, man. So that would tend, to gravitate to him. Do you fear him? You've got to fear in this life. You've got to fear it, because they're killers, man. And I'm going to go there and love you, but I'm going to tell you you're an asshole. It doesn't work that way, man. So it doesn't matter. Of course, there's fear. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think he was very well liked. He took care of his guys good. Even when things were tight, he tried to spread the wealth as best he could. But guys went with him by choice. They didn't have to, man. They could have stood right where they were with the Colombos, man. They could have went down the block because they're a Colombo family. They're not, they just could have walked down the block and not stood with Joey, but they stood with Joey. They were very, very loyal.
Another name that always comes up when you talk about, loved or feared is Sonny Francis. And it seems like he was both. Like it's hard to be loved, respected, and feared all in the same sentence, because it's kind of like all those are different directions. But I think if somebody was, Sonny Francis would probably fit that category as well.
Well, Sonny was loved by his crew.
Yeah.
We don't love Sonny. I didn't love Sonny. I mean, I knew Sonny well. You would fear Sonny because you know who he was, what he was and what he did. But you respect him the most because, we do a lot of things together. I sat with the whole summer with Sonny Francis and Michael at the Georgetown Inn in Brooklyn. And his father was doing business. You get to know people. I mean, he didn't growl at us. He didn't talk like a broken nose. You speak like human beings to each other, so you get to know people a different way, even though what he did or what he does or what other people knows what he does. But if you don't know him to sit with him, you would just know that one thing, don't mess with him. Sonny was a legend in his time, man. So, Sonny.
Yeah. Now, when Joey gets killed, obviously it's been well documented. He was in Umberto's clam house. It was 43rd birthday, right?
Yes.
43rd birthday. Yeah. Now, again, we'll bring up the Irishman again. It was depicted in the Irishman as Frank Sheeran. I've never heard anybody else that I've talked to on any of these interviews say that it was Frank that was the trigger man. What's your take on that?
We know for a fact, the law knows for a fact, they knew that night who did it. I mean, this is all, it's great entertainment, with the Irishman or some other stuff, but we know for a fact who killed Joey. Number one, Joey had two bodyguards one night. They were at the Copa. They were going home. They sent one bodyguard home, which is my godfather, Bobby Bongiovanni, Bobby Darrow. And Peter Greek was taking Joey home. Joey got hungry on the way home, and he wanted to go for Chinese food. And what happened was the Chinese food restaurant was closed. What gets me in the whole story, and it even baffles me, is and I never asked my father because there was no reason for me to ask. We don't ask these things, and we just never talked about these things. I never remember the Chinese restaurant we go to be closed. Right. And number two, you had to pass by the Limehouse, which is a Scungilli house, to get to Umberto's. the limehouse was open. So I'm thinking now, what, something's funny here, unless Umberto's was closed that night. I don't think so, because I ate there many times after that, because we stopped going to Umberto's. We stood at the Limehouse at 8. So I know it's open. Why would Pete, bypass the Chinese place, if it's closed, bypass that, go all the way around to Mulberry Street? I don't understand that. That's the only thing I never asked, because, like I said, I didn't think of asking, and you just don't ask those things. Anyway, so they go in front of Umberto's. A Matty Horse, the wise guy from the Genovese family, owns a joint. He's standing outside. Pete the Greek knows him, so he rolls the window down and asks him, for new. He says, yeah, come in. It's a new joint. It's opened up. What happens is Joe Luparelli was outside hanging out with Matty the Horse. When Joe Luparelli saw Joey Gallo, it was an open hit on Joey. Everyone knows this. It was an open hit. So Joe Luparelli runs around. There was a club around the block. So he runs in the block and he tells the guys there that Joe's around the block. What happened to be Sonny Pinto's there. Sonny Pinto's a killer. Sonny DiBiase is a killer. He's there and he says, okay, let's call up Colombo's. So they call up Joe Iacovelli, who was acting boss for the Colombo's. And so they tell him that Joe is around the block in Umberto. So Joe Yak tells him, well, go get a fucking gun and go kill him. So they put a crew together, a few guys, 4 or 5 guys, and they went to kill him. Now, but Joe Fish and Luparelli didn't tell Joe Yak or Sonny Pinto that his wife was there, his mother was there, and the baby girl was there, and there was another girl there. He didn't say that. He just turned around, ran in there, because we know for a fact what was said afterwards, that he just said that Joey was there with Pete the Greek, with his bodyguard. And he said, we'll go kill him. So everything is a little fuzzy. So what happens, they go in, they kill Joey. They come in and shoot Joey. Pete the Greek gets hit in the butt. Joey runs outside to draw them away from the table, Joey Gallo, and he gets hit outside again. And that's what kills him. He gets shot outside. So what happens is then the police come. Pete the Greek gets arrested for a gun charge. It was a gun. It was all empty because they shot, because Pete the Greek went out there and shot after the car after they left. So it was an empty gun. When the law comes, they find the gun and gets pinched for the gun. But he's in the hospital for a couple of days because he got hit in the butt. When they released him, he came to Pleasant Street. And the first thing Albert Gallo asked him, the first one word, he says, who shot you and my brother? And we're all standing there. There's 6 more guys that's still alive that was there. He turns around to Blast and he goes, it was Sonny Pinto. Guy knows who shot him in the ass. The guy knows who shot him. I mean, they know each other, these people. These are not strangers. It wasn't a hit guy from out of town. It was Sonny Pinto. They had a problem before that. So we knew it was Sonny Pinto. Now, Luparelli, after the hit, goes upstate hard, and he thinks they're going to kill him too. And he runs like another bird. He runs away. And he goes to the feds. And he goes to the feds I think it was a day or two later, and he tells the whole story to the feds. Who drove, who shot Joey, the whole story. He told the whole story. So they know from day 2 the whole real story. The feds knew before everybody else, because you had a rat that turned. You had somebody who turned the phone. Guy who put together the hit, ran away and turned themselves into the feds. Luparelli. I mean, I don't know what else you need, man. The feds knew from day 1.
Well, we talked earlier about all the guys that were loyal to Joey. I mean, what was the landscape in the street like at the time after he got taken out? What was kind of the tone in the street?
Well, everybody's upset. When your guy gets killed, you get upset. You get upset, and then you get bitter and you get mad, and you want to take a head for it. And that's what there is. Everybody got called in. Blast and Punchy, and Louis the Syrian, which is like a consigliere down there, trying to keep everybody calm because everybody's screaming, motherfucking somebody. They're all looking for guns and grabbing guns and who we're going to go shoot now because they killed Joey. I mean, and they just tried to keep everything calm on the block because everybody on the block, and the law came right down to the block. So we were stuck there then. That's it. You couldn't move no more. We were hiding guns anywhere we could because now the law's coming in and you couldn't get off the block no more. I stood on the block for 6 months, didn't leave the block once in 6 months because it was just too hot and the police were there all the time. So you just had to get your head together and, what the big boys wanted to do and figure it out. And, we knew 2 days ago it was Sonny Pinto, but we didn't know where it came from, why it came from. We didn't know all that. That had to be figured out.
Right.
But we just knew who the shooter was because Pete the Greek knew the guy. And that's why we knew from that day on it was Pete. Then the big boys had to figure out what to do and and how to get back. And that's what a few guys got killed after that back on both sides. And then it quieted down. The law quieted everything down.
Now, at this point here, what are you into as far as like records for yourself? Because I do know you did get into doing or selling narcotics a little bit later on. Were you into narcotics at this point in time?
No. Those days we were bookmaking, we were Sherlocking, swag. That's what we were doing. That was our main little thing. We were younger. Yeah, we did a lot of lending money. We did a lot of sports was big. And a lot of swag. Swag was coming those days left and right, man. Every day there was somebody coming with something. So that kept us going. Don't forget, my father always owned Astro News, which is the Screw magazine.
Right.
We owned that since '68. So it was always a job there, or always work. So we always had that, no matter what, we always had that to earn on. But that wasn't big money at the time. It was growing, it was young, it was new. In the porno industry, it was new. So scores and swag were very big. Yeah, very big. I was older when I got into drugs.
Okay. Now I like to ask a lot of these guys, especially guys from that era, what does it feel like now, all these years later, when you look back, all the shit that they were trying to put you guys in jail for, like you just said, like loan sharking and gambling, and in some cases, weed or whatever the case, all that shit's legal now. I mean, fuck, you pull up your phone, you can make a bet. And I mean, these payday loan companies, the interest rates that they charge these fucking people are ridiculous. I don't even think y'all were charging interest rates that fucking high.
No, they charge 100%, man. We charge 3%. They will put us in jail forever. They got smart. We taught them everything, man. We taught the law everything, man. You did. And I mean, even running numbers is essentially the lottery. Yeah, everything. They took over OTB from us, and they busted it out. I mean, that's ridiculous. We had it for 100 years. They busted it out because they couldn't manage it properly. Meanwhile, we had it forever. But yeah, they learn off you, man. These guys get smarter and smarter and smarter, the law, man. That's why it gets harder and harder and harder. These guys are no dummies. They weren't really swift in the old days. They weren't. They really weren't. Right. If you didn't have a rat around you, or you didn't get caught with a gun in your hand, or a truck broke down with swag in it, you beat it. You beat it. You know what I mean? Not today with the surveillance and with the informants and the cameras and the phone and whatever else they have. They probably have lasers. I know they got a lot of things. You can't get away with nothing no more.
No.
But those days it was a lot easier. We had a lot of connections for a lot of things because we had a lot of people in different places, and guys were being bought those days because 1971 people ain't making $118 an hour. Like today, they were making we get $200, $300, $400 a guy working at the motor vehicle. We buy him for a $200 bill. If we wanted a license or a birth certificate, we buy these guys. It was easy,
Yeah.
So we lived in a different time that made it easy for us, I came up at the right time. I got the end of the 60s, and the 70s was like cowboy shit, man. The city was a wreck, I was talking to my partner, Gumadil, Anthony DeLuca, which down Pleasant Street with me all these years. I'm still with him. And we talk about it. We didn't even recognize that the President Street, half the block was condemned. We didn't even realize it, but you don't look at things. Then we saw a film on it, and every other lot was a lot, broken house, burnt down. I said, Anthony, I don't remember looking at that. He goes, we just didn't look, man, because we were so used to it, and because that's what it was those days, So it was common, It was just easy times and stuff like that. I didn't get into drugs until a lot later, man. That'd be the 80s.
Yeah. So now you worked with the Chin for a little bit too, right?
73, 74. What happened was in 76, well, there's a whole big story in between. In 1974, in 1973, well, okay, 72, Joey got killed.
Right.
For another year, people complaining that they didn't want to, we had about a 40-man crew, and Blast was in charge. What happened was we had one guy that was straightened out in the crew, Mooney. He got straightened out in the 50s. Why, I don't know. But he's an older guy. And there was only one male guy in the whole crew. So what happened was they started, things were tight. Too many guys wasn't happy with Blast, so they wanted to break away. They want to leave. But first, he said, before they leave the crew, they'd rather put somebody else ahead of the crew. Just take Albert out there and put somebody in. That's it, which was Mooney. He wanted to be the boss. But nobody liked this Mooney because he was a nasty guy. Nobody liked him. He was not well liked. So we had a meeting on 7th Street in 73, and Funzawal came down, Frank Terry, Joe Chapani came down, Chin sent Funzawal down. And we had a meeting there, and they asked my father, Ricky, to take over the head of the thing. My father turned and laughed at them and said, it's a Gallo name. He's alive. I'm with him. It's his. So what happened was, about a month later, about 10 guys broke away. And these 10 guys that were together in the crew, these 10 guys that broke away, we had a lot of businesses together. We had a shalak and bookmaking. We had clubs. We had the vending machines. A lot of stuff. Pop business. We were big. We were always big in hash. So what happened was, after 6-7 months, they started feuding again, and then the shooting started. And the first guy got killed was Steven Cirillo got killed, and then Punch Giuliani got shot, and Louis DeSiri got shot, and then a couple guys on their side got shot. I don't know exactly names. And what happens when Chin came down, because Blast was good friends with Chin, and Punchy. Punchy was good friends with Chin. And they said, why don't you get out of that crew, come over to New York? So they sat down with Chin, and Chin made arrangements with, I think Carmine Persico was in charge, and he was in jail. But he says, I want you to release all these guys and let them go where they want to go. And the Colombos at the time, said, get rid of them. We didn't even want them here because there's such a pain in the ass. It was always feuding. We don't need that crew. So what happened was they got released to Chin. So in 76, pretty much everybody got released from early 76, got released from the Colombos, and guys went different places. Bobby Borriello pretty much went with John Gotti. A lot of guys went in different places.
Right.
We wound up going with Punchy, and we wound up going with Chin because my father was good friends with Chin. So we wound up in Chin in 76. But just before that, before they left Brooklyn, another guy, Stevie Borriello, got shot, and we made there was a stink being made. So those two guys that were involved with the shooting got called in. One didn't come in, and one came in. When the guy that came in, they killed him right away. The guy went on the lam. When the other guy came back, they called him to come back. They said, they squashed it because they killed, I think they killed Chiraz, Jerry Geritano, Chiraz we call him. They killed him. And then Mooney got called in, and he didn't want to come in. And what happened was they said that by Chiraz getting killed, it's over with. So he came in and we killed him, and then he got killed. And when he got killed, it was all over. Then everything was finished, and we wound up in New York with Chin. And we stood Chin from 76 to about 82. We got a drug pinch to 82, 84. And then we got the drug pinch and we got released from there.
Now, when you took the pinch on the drugs, you were facing life in prison.
Yes, I was facing, I got pinched for 4 A1 felonies, 425 to lives. And yeah, it was a rat and an undercover agent. And what happened was I got approached by somebody that wanted coke. I didn't sell coke. I wasn't drug dealing at the time, but I'm a hooligan. I told him yes, and I ran down to the hook and I found somebody who sold coke.
You become a coke dealer real quick. Yeah.
I mean, I ran down there. I said, I got a guy who wants some, and I put it together. That's why, you know, I got, you know, for whatever I got pinched for it. So, but they asked me, you know, after I got bail, I was in for about a month and a half. I couldn't make bail. I had $1 million bail. I couldn't get out. And then I finally got out, and the DA grabs me and says that, you know, that I'm screwed with these 4 A1 felonies. I said, okay. And he says, but if we know your father was involved, why don't you just, you know, give him, you know, tell me he was involved. He set it up and you didn't, and you pretty much can get a bullshit thing. I laughed at him. I said, I see you in trial. I went home. I told my father. I said, Dad, you know what this guy just did? He goes, what happened? He goes, he asked me. He said to give you up. He goes, I can walk. He goes, don't worry about it. Keep your mouth shut, and we're gonna beat this. 19 months later, they throw the whole thing out of court.
Wow.
We beat the whole thing out of court, and that was like 84. So then we had the problem with Chin, because you know Chin finds out when on a drug pinch, so Chin goes over to blast. We get called down. So my father grabs me. He goes, "We're gonna get killed." I says, "Well, that's fine. That's nice." I said, "What are we gonna do?" I said, "Let's go get some guns. Let's go get some guns." He goes, "Hey, we can't." He goes, "You can't. It ain't gonna happen." He goes, "We gotta go." I looked at him. I said, "We gotta go." He goes, "Yep, we're gonna go." I said, "Okay." So we got dressed up, and I drove him, and we went. And he went up, and we had a meeting upstairs in a club. And what happened was, Chin grabbed, I think it was Punchy at the time, or Blast, and asked him what the going on with Ricky, you know, and they came up with this beautiful theory, this beautiful idea. He goes, Ricky's with us, but he's not with us. He's not spoken for. Ricky can do he's an independent nut. He can do what he wants. He just comes around if we need him, or this and that. Or we got people, but we don't really own him, you know. So Chin looked at it. He goes, okay, it's a good day, but don't make him come around no more. Make sure they're not around. So that's why we went up to New York, so they can tell us that we can't come around no more. And what happened was, we for a year or two, I didn't even think that much, we laid low. And then I think 2 years later, my father was driving Blast around back around again. You know, it was all bullshit, you know. Or maybe Chin left already. I'm not sure. I don't, you know, I'm not a historian. I'm just trying to tell you what's going on.
Right.
And then we wound up with Blast anyway, driving around. And then, like I said, I think it's 92. Louis Teresi and Rudy Farone comes with good friends of my father. They were Jersey crew. What happened was my father was good friends with Rotunda, Jimmy Rotunda. Jimmy Rotunda was that crew. He was a union guy. He winds up getting killed. They straightened his son out, Anthony, but he was green as a mother. So, because my father was very close to his father, and Anthony respected my father, they came down and said, "This we fair stay with Anthony and school him." So what happened was my father winds up staying with Anthony and that crew with Rudy and Louis Tracy and a few other guys, and he winds up schooling Anthony, and we wound up being with Anthony from 92 until they get the pinch in 99, when everybody goes, you know, when they go hit the fan.
Well, real quick,
and what happens is that
I got one question for you. If you think you were like a full member of, I guess I've been the Genovese at that time up under the Chin, you guys would have probably been killed, right?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, we probably, you know, if we beat the case and we said it was all bullshit, sometimes you can bullshit your way out of there. Sometimes they turn out a little peak. If they really like you and you didn't bring no heat on them and it didn't roll over to them, there's ways to where every rule's made to be broken, man. That's why I tell everybody. And if you're not there, you don't know that. People don't know that. So they go, oh, yes, no. But if it doesn't roll over to the chin, and we do beat the case, we can sit there big bald and say, told you it was bullshit. So yes, you could have, if everything ran right, you could have still where you were if you beat everything. Yes. If you didn't, yeah, you're gonna even get killed. You know what I mean?
Because we had Rita Gigante on the show a few weeks ago, and it was interesting talking to her about how, you know, growing up with him and, you know, not realizing just exactly how powerful her father was. I mean, the Chin was a powerful godfather.
Couldn't say his name, man. That's power.
Yeah. I mean, people would just, you know, do the point to the chin. I mean, that's holding a lot of weight in those streets.
Oh yeah. That's big. He was powerful, man.
Now, in the time when you were over in the decavs, I know you talked a little bit about Anthony Rotunda, and then he winds up cooperating, right? Once that bus goes down.
Yeah, we wound up in 1999. Just for a pinch, I got put up to be made in that crew, in that family. My father grabs me and says that we're gonna get it straightened out, me and a couple of guys, because if you make sure I wanted it. And I tell him, what do you think? And he goes, I think so. I said, okay. And he leaned over and he said, but I gotta tell you one thing. And we're in a bar. We were at TGIF's in Shipson Bay. We went to have a drink in there. And he leaned over the bar and he leaned over and grabbed my hand. He goes, but don't forget one thing. And he goes, because I'm the one that's gonna kill you, you fuck up. I said, okay. I looked at him. He smiled at me, pinched my hand. We had a drink, and we went on our business. About 2 weeks later, we were supposed to get straightened out. It was just around Christmas time. Everybody gets pinched. So I never get straightened out. And what happens, Anthony and all that whole crew gets pinched. And Anthony is in jail for about a little over a year. And also they took him out of circulation. So we knew that he went bad. We didn't know why, but then we found out that Vinny Oceans is the boss. He flipped. Anthony Capo flipped. Another underboss flipped. Another capo flipped. Like 2 rats, undercover agent, rats in there. So Anthony stood there. He was waiting to go to trial, and so he turned around and said, "I'm dead. How am I going to get out of this? My boss flipped. My underboss flipped. This guy who made me flipped." He goes, "I'm dead, man." So he says, fuck you. You broke the rules. I'm done. I'm not sitting here holding the bag. And he was pretty much right. Who went and opened up topless clubs in Texas, took all their money. Everybody went in a program. They all singing and dancing and having stuff. Fun.
Who was that that did that? Who was that went to Texas and opened up the clubs? Was that him?
Vinny Oceans went there.
Vinny Oceans, that's right. Yeah.
Palermo. He went he made the best deal for himself. He kept his money and went to Texas.
Because we interviewed Giovanni Rocco, and he was FBI. He went undercover over there and made a big bust. And it might have been after this one. I don't think it's the same bust. I don't think.
When?
Yeah, in the decavs.
I don't know. After that, there was no one left. What, 3 old men and an old lady. I mean, I think
when did Riggy take over? When did the Eagle take over? John Riggy.
Oh, before. Before. Yeah, he was actually the real boss. I think Vinny Palermo was acting.
Okay. Well, this may have been that bust.
Yeah, this maybe was that. It was 99. No, Ricci was still the boss. It was Palermo was acting boss. Him and 2 other guys, and another guy. I didn't know. Don't forget, we're the Brooklyn crew, so we didn't go out much to Jersey.
Right.
1 or 2 times we had to go. And so what happened was after the Anthony went bad and stuff like that, and everybody else went bad and everything went bad, they never came to us, the Jersey, whoever's left over there, because number one, they were running for the hills because they didn't know when the next pinch was coming, who the next rat was. They didn't know our business in Brooklyn because Anthony was the skipper. Rudy passed away, and so they didn't have no who the hell are you gonna grab? Me? Gonna ask me, my father? They don't even know us, and they were afraid to implicate themselves in anything. So you know what they did? They made us walk away. We just walked away. No one come knocking on the door. We just walked away. We did what we had to do, but we shut everything down because Anthony was a skipper and he went bad. They got everything on us, so you're not gonna do it no more. So we just walked away, and that's how my father and myself walked away, because we were at the right place, the right time, and these guys were all so fucked up that they didn't come looking. They said, "Oh, you can't get out of Mafia." These guys were so afraid. They didn't know who to talk to, who not to talk to, and to open any more cans of worms. They were ditch indictments. They don't know who the next guy was flipping was. So they said, "Leave those guys in Brooklyn alone. They ain't touching none of our stuff. Forget about it." And that's what happened there.
Okay.
And that's that story.
I remember. Did you know a guy over there, Charlie the Hat Stango?
I know of him. I wasn't friends with him.
I know he was. Charlie Stango was kind of like the guy that vouched for Giovanni when he came into the decavs.
Really?
Yeah. He was one of them.
He was old man.
Yeah. Well, who you talking about? The agent or the Hat?
The Hat.
Yeah.
He was an older guy, wasn't he?
Yeah. He was an older guy. Yeah. That was an interesting story because you didn't hear too much about him. I mean, a lot of times when you heard the decavs, supposedly loosely they were kind of the basis for the Sopranos. John Riggi was kind of modeled for Tony Soprano, supposedly. I mean, you never know until you actually talk to whoever really kind of done this. But
it was 100% off that crew in Jersey. 100% off that, man. What's his name? David Chance was the
Chase
guy in that?
David Chase.
Yeah. He had a guy that was from Jersey that fed him everything. They knew all the ins and outs. They knew all the who was with who and what was with what. So he had a lot of inside information from whomever it was. So it was really, he was very, very accurate in a lot of things.
Yeah, I think so too. So some of the scams that they pulled off, I think was a lot of, what really went down. What did you think of that series? I mean, were you a fan of it?
Well, don't forget, we made friends with everybody. Vinny Pastore and Frank Vincent and Christopher, and those are all friends of mine. So, we met them because we were Jersey crew. They knew that. So we happened to make all friends because they want to hook up with guys from Jersey. They knew with Sammy the Plumber's crew. So you wind up being friends. So they started hanging out where we were at the clubs, and at the top, we had a couple of joints in the city. And so Vinny Pastore and everybody came down all the time. So you made friends with them. Yeah, we liked them. We went out, we made friends. We were friends to this day. Most of them died. Well,
Sirico, who just passed away recently, Sirico was a real mob guy.
Yeah, he came from Bensonhurst. He was a knockaround guy until he walked away.
Yeah.
And he was about the only one there, really, that was really involved earlier. But the other guys, they did well. I mean, Frank Vincent did a great job. I mean, Vinny Pastore did a wonderful job. I mean, Tony, I mean, the guy
Gandolfini.
What's the name that died? Gandolfini. He was excellent, man. Because he didn't look the part, but he was so good at it. I mean, he just did so well at it. And then making friends with everybody, you tend to like it a little more because you're friends. So you get a little bias, and then I was in a car with Anthony one time. There's a story out there that we had an undercover agent in a car we didn't know. We met at Bozelli's in Staten Island one day for a meeting, and my father, Anthony, a few guys. I wound up at the bar with the agent because we didn't sit down to eat yet. But the agent was talking to me about baseball. We were watching a Yankee game, so it was all good. Then we went to table and ate, and then we left, and we drove. It was me, my father, Anthony Rotunda, and I think it was the rack, the informant. And he was wired. I didn't notice. I was driving, and Anthony and was the one that started that it's all over the place. That I think they're talking about us. We're the Sopranos.
Yeah, that's on the wiretap.
I think I think it was Anthony. I was in the car that day. It was, I think, Anthony Rotunda or Frankie Tini. I don't know, one of the guys, but it was one of us. I was driving, you know what I mean? And I remember the conversation, but that was an undercover agent was in the car.
Wow.
No, not the undercover agent. No, not the cop. The informant was in the car with us. And I mean, it's a great story. It's old story, it's old, but it was a good story, I was in the belly of the beast for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
And then we walked away, and everything else is a memory.
That's what I was going to get you to, because your dad walked away first, right? Then we retired down to Florida.
Yeah, we did together. Together. He looked at me. I said, "What are we doing?" And he says, "That's it. Anybody calls, don't answer the phone. And they call you down, don't go. That's it." And that was his last words about it. And that's it. And we walked away.
Now, a lot of people do not get that luxury. And we talked at the beginning of the show, your father's kind of idea about this: don't get married or hitched to one crew. You can basically be a freelancer and you don't really have to answer to anybody. By and large, that's probably what kept you guys alive. Or you.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, it kept him alive, kept me alive. Oh, definitely kept me alive. Well, just being his son kept me alive, because we did a lot of wild and bad things. And when you're young and you got big balls, you yell at the wrong people sometimes. I got a lot of passes for that, because I was Ricky's son. Not because they feared me, because they didn't know me yet, but they respected my father and feared him. And I got a lot of passes. So I don't know. When you're there, you're doing it, you do it. I mean, there's no Monday morning quarterbacking then. You can do that 50 years later if you survive.
Right.
But when you're doing it, that's your life. That's what you do. But we had enough. Ricky made enough good moves to plan to place himself in a good position, being well liked, and being smart enough to know that if you don't commit yourself for that button, he goes, a lot of people, but my father knew he was a tough guy. My father killed many people. He had a lot under his belt. Everyone knew it, from every crew, every family. We were friends with Roy DeMayo. We were friends with Paulie Vario over my house all the time for business reasons. Robert DB, very close with us. Bobby Bonello.
That was the porn guy, right? That Sammy killed.
Yeah. He was with us the day he got killed.
Really?
So he came to my house. He came on that morning. My father's in jail. Came over because my father was doing a short bid, and he called up because he knows my father calls my mother at a certain time. So he came over to the house in the morning, had breakfast with us, and when Ricky called in, DB told my father, he goes, Sammy called me down to Cropsey Avenue. Ricky told him, don't go. He goes, don't go by yourself. So he says, well, bring Frankie boy, meaning me. So DB says, nah. There's no reason for me not to go. DB goes there, and an hour later they killed him. But my father told him that morning, do not go by yourself. If you gotta go, don't go by yourself. And DB was 100% sure there was no reason that anything was gonna happen, and they killed him an hour later.
You think if you'd have went with him, they'd killed you too?
Oh, I'm fucking dead. We wouldn't be having this conversation. No. Thank God for DB didn't want to think it. He was a good there, because I would have got killed. Because I'm number one. I wouldn't have went shooting. I wouldn't have done that. They're way ahead of over my head. You don't do that. And by the time I reacted to something, I would look like a Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
By the time you react, you ain't going to do something bad. You're at a disabled. You're lost already.
Yeah, because he was big into the porn and stuff, right? He was kind of the porn guy down there at that time.
Yeah, he was big. He had the national distributorship for everything, man. Everything. He also had a lot of other legitimate businesses, but that's what he's known for. Yeah.
Wow. So you guys really did get to deal with the best of each crew, everything that everybody had to offer. You kind of did get to to pick and choose who to make money with. I mean, that's really looking bad. That's really kind of the better way to go. The only thing is, if you get in hot water, who do you go for backing though?
While you with someone?
Well, yeah. Speaking of you guys, like just say if you're dealing with DB, right? You're doing something dealing with DB. Yeah. Who do you go for backing?
Whoever you're with, even though we're friends, whomever you're with at the time, that's who you're gonna go to. I don't know. I don't know what year that was. I'm lost for years. But we might have been with Anthony then. He might have came to my father just for advice because we were friends all our lives. And Ricky was really very schooled it that way. So we could have been with Anthony at the time, or could have still been with Chin. I don't know. But he came for advice. You know what I mean? Just like Joe Shapani. Joe Shapani's he was with a Joe Adonis and Lucky Luciano. Ate my house every Sunday. But they spoke and they put their brains together and they figured things out and they bring things to each other. I mean, you just sit with Joe Shapani is like sitting with the royalty. I mean, I sat with him every Sunday forever. Right. You know, guy with Lucky Luciano and Frank Costello. That was Joe Adonis's partner. So you get to meet everybody. A lot of people you don't like. A lot of people do like. You know, there was a lot of guys I didn't like. I knew a lot of guys were assholes or just douchebags and stuff like that. But you just keep your mouth shut and you got nothing to say. Don't say it. You know. Mm-hmm. I was in Miami, met Meyer Lansky. You know, we met Lansky at the cricket club. We were doing a deal. I wound up just driving. I wound up drinking and having fun. But my father was doing a deal with some Colombians in some Cubans in Miami. We were in Miami at the cricket club, and I wound up having lunch with Meyer Lansky. I mean, it was great, man. I had lunch with Frank Costello. I ate for a whole summer every Thursday night with Carlo Cambino. I sat at his table. He invited me to his table for whole summer. I think it was the summer of '72, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think I was with my wife yet. Right around that time, I lose track of time because it wasn't important, you know. Right. Only now, because we talk about it, I try to remember stuff, you know. But I met royalty of all royalty, man. I still say my father probably was the. I'm a little biased because he's my father, but he's probably the man's man of men I met. Only because I know what he did, you know, and I saw how other people treated him. And that's what my father taught me. It's not what you say about yourself, man. It's about people. So what people say about you, right? You know, and Ricky is a legend. You know, when I was, you know, with Ricky, and we like when we went to the what's that? when we went to the Jersey Crew, and those guys over there, we sat down for the first night, and I just met them, you know, a couple of them like that. And we had sat at a big table eating, and they leaned over to me and goes, "Your father's a legend," you know, and you know, you go, "Holy shit," you know, this crew of guys that just meeting Ricky too, but was told by their guy, you know, by Anthony Rotundo or whomever's over there, that who he was or what he did, and the guys lean over to you and say, "You know, your father's a legend," you know, it's got to be, man. Yeah, it's what, like my father is. He's what they say about you is the key, not what you say about. I can say anything about myself, you know.
Absolutely.
It was a great ride. It was a great ride. Do I miss it? Yeah, I mean, you can't do it no more. Yeah, you know, it was a sick world. We were crazy. We didn't make no sense. You know, we didn't think about nothing. It was natural. Could I do it again now? I don't think so. I don't think I have that bitterness, or I mean, do I get mad now? I get mad. I wish it would. I say to my son, my wife, I wish it was 1972. I'll open your face up right now. But I turn around and I go, it's not 1972, and I didn't open no one's face. So
it's definitely not that now.
I can't breathe. My back hurts. Oh man, I mean, come on, man. But it was a great time. Not a lot of people got to do what I did, especially a lot of other guys in this genre, because it was set in one place, like you said, and they didn't get to meet everybody. I mean, I spanned like almost 50 years of meeting the best. Wow. And no one questions me, because everyone who does know knows it's true. So that's why I never get no feedback. I've been doing this for 13 years, man. You know, with the magazine, and then, you know, the books and stuff.
Well, that's what I wanted to touch on before we get out of here. First, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you coming on the show, but tell our listeners where they can go to track down your book, and then also the magazine that you have.
Okay, you go to mobcandymag.com. I have the new Mob Candy magazine that just we just put out. And every book I wrote about like 10 books already. So, you know, Albert Anastasia, I wrote The Hitman about Joey's killing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wrote The Pleasure Street Boys. I wrote Carmine Persico is a great book. I wrote a book about Carmine. I mean, they're all there. Everything's there on the website, you know, mobcandymag.com.
All right, we'll put that our website in the show notes of this on the YouTube. So if anybody wants to go pick up some of those books, they can get that. They can follow longer. Are you on any social media platforms?
Yeah, I probably am. I'm on. Oh Christ, I got on Facebook. I got Mob Candy Mag, Uncle Frankie Dimatteo. And I got something on what's the other thing? Instagram.
Yeah.
But I don't know how to turn it on yet. But I do some pop up. I do talk to people, and they go, "Well, it's been 7 months since you answered me, Mom." But yeah, you find me. Frankie, Frank Mario, Mob Candy, it all links up.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am Hollywood Wade. That was Frank Dimatteo. And unfortunately, we're out of time. Frank, I want to say how much I appreciate you stopping by the show, my friend.
You got it. Thank you so much.
All right, buddy. We'll talk with you later.